My name's Chewy Vidalis, and this is a story about wine, cuisine, and culture in the beautiful countries of Spain and Turkey. It's pretty amazing how this all came about. When I was working at restaurants in California, I was called on to host The Writer from the Gallo. It's a lifestyle and travel magazine. They were doing a write-up on my restaurant. Fast forward a few years, and I was called on to host the same writer and his wife. His wife mentioned that I'd be a perfect candidate for this nonprofit organization scholarship she sat on the board with, Inspire Artistic Minds. What is Inspire Artistic Minds? Inspire Artistic Minds is a brainchild of one of the coolest foodies I know on the West Coast, Bobby Navarro. It's a charitable organization that provides opportunity scholarships and educational experiences to advance the arts in the area of taste, sight, and sound. With a strong focus in the food and beverage industry, I was a perfect candidate. Inspire Artistic Minds encourages the growth of local economy, strengthens small business, and builds up passionate individuals in varying creative industries.
Oh my God.
I did it. I got the scholarship. Our journey begins in Barcelona, Spain, or as the locals would say, Barcelona.
What do you think?
I don't know which one I want.
Overwhelming?
I'm overstimulated.
Barcelona is a magnificent city. It's truly hard to describe what it's like here. It's something you just have to experience on your own. As the second largest city in Spain, Barcelona has a population of 5,575,000. After a jet-lagged early morning rise and a quasi-Americano breakfast, it was time to hit the road. We boarded a train and headed to Sant Sadurní d'Anoia, Cava country. Cava is the national sparkling wine of Spain. As Prosecco is to Italy, Champagne is to France, Cava is to Spain. Sant Sadurní is about a 45-minute train ride from Barcelona, and it's well worth the trip. As you exit the train station, you're greeted by one of the more well-known cava houses, Cava Freixenet. You probably remember this stuff. It's in a little black bottle. Most likely you saw it at a Sunday brunch party. They make a ton of this stuff. They make so much, they even make scooters and cars out of it. It's amazing to walk the grounds and to see that they utilize every inch they can to squeeze in some more vineyards. As we walk through the streets, it's easy to see that this town thrives from wine production. The culture, the economy, and the people eat, sleep, and breathe cava. And we were on our way to the king of cavas, Juve Y Camps. Alright, before we get started, it's important you understand the history of winemaking in this region of Spain. In the late 19th century, France was devastated by phylloxera. It's a small sap-sucking aphid that feeds on grapevines. I mean, these things virtually destroyed all the vineyards throughout France and most of Europe. Cava was first produced around 1872 as the Spanish adopted the method champenois. This is a prized method that the French developed to make the best sparkling wines on the planet. Simply put, the Spanish played a key role in supplying the demand for sparkling wine throughout Phylloxera Plague. In return, Spain is now credited with some of the highest quality sparkling wines in the world, and they do not carry the ridiculous price tag as champagne. We are picked up at our rendezvous spot and headed to our destination down this whimsical road. We made it, Juve Y Camps. Let me start off by saying they do not do tours of this place. This is a private tour set up for Jen and I. I think it's important that we discuss the method champenois. This is the method that the French developed that the Spanish inherited. And this is where it starts. Step 1, harvest. Out of roughly 10 steps, this is where it all begins. This is a roundabout where the trucks drop off the annual harvest. And from this tower, you get a real sense of how big this place is. I mean, there's vineyards as far as the eye can see. I can just imagine the buzz here during harvest, the trucks whipping in and out of this roundabout, and the winemakers observing from above.
And all you can see, those are the vineyards of Juve Y Camps. And behind the electric tower, behind the hill, we've got 50 more hectares of Pinot Noir there.
Yep, you heard him right. Pinot Noir. There is Pinot Noir in Cava. There's actually Pinot Noir in Champagne as well, but we'll get into that a little later. What a magnificent sight this is. Wait, stop the music. I almost forgot to introduce you to the man responsible for us being here, Oriol Gual. This guy is a powerhouse. He's the export area manager at Juve Y Camps. With degrees in marketing, business, and international trade from the University of Barcelona, Oriol is responsible for making sure this wine hits the table on all four corners of the planet. He even furthered his studies and got his degree in enology and viticulture and finished off in Champagne where he worked at a small vineyard. Oriol takes us underground, and I mean, this place is like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. He points over to this corridor and it winds through and brings me to this giant cement room. I asked him what this is for, and he said the owner's in the process of building an auditorium to entertain dignitaries, the national soccer team, and house opera musicians. It's absolutely amazing. So back to the wine. This is basically walking through the steps of method champenois. This is step 2. This is where they ferment the still wine, primary fermentation in sparkling wine. All sparkling wines start their life off this way. They start as a still wine. Down here is where they house the tanks in order to do so. These are some of the biggest tanks I've ever seen. There are 5 major grapes you're going to find in Juve Y Camps Cava: Parellada, Macabeo, Xarel-lo, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir. All in all, there's about 8 grapes you can make Cava from. And this is by law. You have to use these varieties for your Cava blend. Once you harvest each of these varieties, you then ferment them separately. This is the second step I was talking about. This is where you ferment those grapes into a still wine. It is then up to the winemaker to take each individual still wine and blend it to make a signature Cava. Oriol waves me over and takes me through another secret passageway. Are you kidding me? Look at this place.
Is this a storage facility?
Yeah, that's for the red wine. All the barrels we've seen before, and they normally are here. We store the red wine in these barrels for a minimum of 10 months, and then we start checking the wine inside, and if that's good enough, we bottle the wine, and if the enologists they think they need more time, we leave as much time, as much or as many time.
As much.
As much time?
As much.
And once we bottle the wine spends 2 years aging in the bottle.
There's so much going through my mind right now. I mean, look at this place. These tunnels go for miles and miles underground. It's really a subterranean city. It's unbelievable. Here's here's one of the Reserva storage areas. Look at this. There's probably 30 or 40,000 bottles just in that picture. And here, who knows, anywhere from 100 to 150,000 bottles aging. We walk through another hidden door to enter this gorgeous space where Jean Juve loves to entertain dignitaries and the international soccer team. Look at how gorgeous this space is. And of course, equipped with a kitchen that can rival any Michelin restaurant and a wine fridge that probably holds about 1,000 bottles. We headed down some more magical hallways and ended up at the laboratory. While Juve Y Camps prides himself in tradition, they also respect the modern winemaking technique. This is an area where Jean Juve and his team taste and make sure the wines are of quality. We went down another hallway, another set of stairs, and we ended up here. This is where they house some of the most prized wines of Juve Y Camps. Again, look at the scale. While making this film, I contacted Oriol to find out how many bottles they store down here. He said in the whole winery they have between 12 and 13 million bottles. Their annual sales are slightly above 3 million bottles, and the average bottle aging underground in the cavas is 3.5 years. I mean, you can really appreciate these racks, but look at the depth of each rack. In each rack, there could be up to 100,000 bottles aging. In these small racks is where the riddling occurs. Alright, so we covered the harvest, we covered fermenting the still wine. In the lab, they test each still wine to figure out the characteristic of the wine from a scientific standpoint in order to make a perfect blend. They then add the yeast and the sugar to the wine inside of the bottle. This is where the riddling occurs. I'll let Oriol explain a little more.
And then we add sugar and yeast because cava or sparkling wine is second fermentation, and it takes place, method traditional, it takes place inside the bottle.
Yeah.
So we fill the bottles with wine, sugar, yeast, and then we seal the bottles with this plastic cap. Your father's making sparkling, so probably they use that.
Probably, yeah.
So this plastic cap, and then we seal the bottles with this crown cap. So when the plastic cap goes here. So, and now we've got a lamp here. So we place the bottles down in the cellar. Here the temperature is constant through the year, so it's 16, 17 degrees, and that's the best temperature for the yeast to make the second fermentation. And yeah, we place the bottles horizontally for a minimum of 9 months. The law says the bottle has to be aging for 9 months. In Juve Y Camps, as I said, we make mainly reservas and grand reservas. For a grand reserva is a minimum of 30 months. But we normally age for longer. The Reserva family is 3.5 years. And in this position, in 2-3 months, we've done the bottling. The yeast makes the second fermentation, so feed itself with the sugar, transform it into alcohol and CO2, and when they die, they run out of food, they die, and they settle on the basis of the bottle. And you can see the sediment here. So those are the dead yeast cells.
So what happens to those?
To those, with 9 months, we can remove them. But we leave the lees, the
Sediments.
the dead yeast, the sediment, in contact with the cava for so much time, because with time this gives better flavor and better taste to the product. And we are in the premium market, so best quality, Grand Reserva. That's
what gives the That's what gives it the
Yeah,
flavor.
the toastiness, this kind of
Yeasty.
yeasty comes from this aging.
That is
And once we've got also, if you come closer, all the metal caps, the crown caps, they've got a QR. So I don't know what's inside or for how long they've been resting here, but with a scanner, I can come here, scan the bottles, and I can know all the information. So for how long they've been doing the aging, when the bottles were bottled. And going backwards, I can even know where the grapes come from and which part of the vineyard they come from.
Oh, wow.
So that's traceability. It's for controlling the quality, the whole process.
Yeah.
Look at all these cavas.
And you see, we can see some gaps. So some bottles, they explode. That's why when we work here, touching the bottles, nothing's gonna happen now, so no worry. Employees, they are obliged to wear masks, glasses, gloves for protection, because when the yeast makes the fermentation, as the bottle is completely sealed, the gas cannot go outside, so it integrates itself with the wine, and it increases the pressure inside the bottle. So there can be like 7 or 8 atmospheres of pressure. So imagine those are small bombs.
Yeah.
And in Juve Y Camps, nothing has happened, but I know in other wineries there have been some nasty accidents, like eyes gone, nasty bones, even somebody got killed. But
Really?
it goes like.
So as we continue on, Oriol brings us to some of the original cavas built by Juve Y Camps. And down here on the right, you can see this really cool, little conveyor belt that they use for transporting bottles in and out. And we come up to some of the oldest riddling racks in the facility. I feel like we haven't talked about riddling, so let me explain what riddling is. Riddling involves the gradual tilting of the bottleneck down. Meanwhile, you're rotating it by small increments, clockwise and counterclockwise. As the angle of the tilt increases, the forces of gravity draw the sediment into the neck of the bottle. Towards the end of their long resting period, the bottles must be moved and rotated to loosen the sediment, which is the dead yeast cells and riddling aids, and this is thrown off by second fermentation. This process happens in these racks, and it's all done by hand. It's extremely labor intensive. This is known as remoage in France, and this process causes the sediment to collect in the neck of the bottle in preparation for disgorgement, which is the next step. We'll talk about disgorgement a little more in the next clip.
Horizontally, and then once a day, somebody here come shaking and tipping the bottles once a day, and the process lasts for around 2 weeks. So here's, I think it's not complete, so it's that's 13 days now.
So only one more day.
Probably, or even a couple more. So the idea is that all the sediment that was concentrated was settled basically on the bottle. We have to concentrate it in the neck of the bottle inside the plastic cap. That's the purpose of that. That's why it's empty. So it's here, and I might be able to take one.
I'm all scared.
No, don't worry. You will see. That's it. Can you see the sediment?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's really cool. Let me get a picture of that.
The area that Oriol is pointing to here is the creme de la creme. This is the single vintage cava. Another thing about the method champenois and the champagne style, which is what the Spanish inherited, is that there's different styles. The traditional cavas and champagnes can come from a blend of different years. The really good stuff is harvested in a single year, and they call this single vintage cava.
So degorging, they have to remove the bottles from the riddling racks without shaking the bottles. So they remove the bottles, and with a special tool, they open the bottle, and they have to be quick enough to let the sediment out. There's a lot of pressure inside. So once you open the bottle, the sediment pops out. You have to be quick enough to let the sediment out. Put the finger to stop to prevent the cava from spilling, and put the bottle right side up. Put the bottle here. Put the cork. Compress the cork and cork the bottle.
Wow.
Amazingly, they don't crack. I don't know how it works, but
That is, and they do one bottle at a time.
yeah, sure.
Amazing.
You know, I tried to do that at home, and it was terrible. I left, yeah, almost I spilled the product. And, you know, 50, 70 years ago, we didn't have the machines to do that, so everything had to be done by hand. And those people, the degorgers, they were the well-reputed, best reputed, and the best paid or well-paid, you know, because at this precise moment, you can ruin the company. I mean, what's the point of taking special care of the vineyards, long aging, you know, and everything if you spill the product here?
Yeah. So this was like a very important job.
The degorgers, they were compared like football players nowadays. That if you are a good football player, everybody wants to go play for their team, you know, and you get more money.
Yeah.
So all the companies were fighting or competing to get the best ones because it was so important.
And what is the name? What is it they call them in Spanish?
Degollador.
Degolador.
Degollador.
Degolador. Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah. So we still do that by hand. Well, we only make 2,000 bottles of Jeroboams a year, but still it's a job.
Oriol then walks us over to these large racks. Inside these racks, you can see the cavas placed upside down. These are locked and loaded and getting ready for the more modern version of disgorgement. Oriol then walks us over to the disgorgement machine. This can disgorge cava at an extremely rapid rate. It's really sad to think that this machine replaced those skilled laborers that were so prized in the olden days.
We take the bottles from cage and we place the bottles into this machine. It's called Champa Gel. Here it's got a freezing liquid, and we can drop the temperature down to minus 25 degrees. And with 10 minutes, we freeze the neck of the bottle. So the plastic cap with the sediments, it gets frozen with 10 minutes. And once we reach that part, we've got the neck of the bottle completely frozen. We can put the bottles right side up. So the sediments get trapped in the cup of ice. Then we've got the cup of ice and the cava. So the cava is clean, no sediments mixed with the cava. Here.
So you remember during the riddling process, we got all those sediments down to the cap of the wine. Now we freeze the neck of the bottle. The ice traps those sediments. They release the cap and outfly the ice and the sediment. This is why when you get the bottle, you don't have all that gunk in the wine.
Here we clean the bottles, and that's a scanner. We scan the crown cap. I told you we've got all the information. So we scan the crown cap and we keep the information. And that's the degorger. That's the person, you know, opening the bottles. So that's the machine doing this function. So if it was working, we would hear like a lot of noise, like gunshots, you know?
Boom,
and really, really quick, like, because it opens the bottle and all the pressure inside makes frozen.
Out,
the frozen part pops out really fast.
It's crazy.
So after that, we've got the clean cava, so the cava, and that's the dosage. It's a mix of all wine and sugar. That's the secret of the company. The formula goes down through generations. So It's like like the Coca-Cola.
So the dosage, it'll basically justify the sweetness or the dryness of the wine, right?
Exactly. It depends on the quantity of this dosage we add. We will have a Brut Nature. So Reserva La Familia is a Brut Nature cava, no dosage, so bone dry. Then if we add a little bit, we'll have a Brut, so a bit of sweetness, and or a demi-sec or a sweet, depending on the quantity of this liquor or dosage.
So many different factors into making sure that it is the best wine, or the best cava.
And, we consider Juve Y Camps, or the owner, the family Juve, they consider this dosage to be like a makeup. You know, so if you don't have the best grapes, or you don't have the best wine, what you can do, you just make it sweet. And you can cover up the flaws of the wine. You know, that's why our flagship product is a Brut Nature, so no dosage. So it's totally dry. It's just the flavor of the grapes and the flavor of the wine.
So that is the dosage. In Spanish, how do you call that?
Dosage.
Dosage.
And then we put the cork-matic, it's machine corks, and the process lasts for, since we open the bottle, it's really fast. So since we open the bottle until we put the cork, it's 15-20 seconds. So really quick. And if anything happens, all the bottles and the machine stops, all the bottles in the middle will be rejected.
Really?
So the corks are actually one size before they go into the bottle.
Oh, they're right there. Look at.
Yeah,
Do they expand in the bottle?
Yeah, I'll show you a cork. Bottles are waiting for the label. And those bottles here, they're upside down. They're waiting for the degorgement.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps in Méthode Champenois or Traditionnelle. Do they have a name for it in with cava? Do they call it the same thing, Méthode Traditionnelle? Is it?
Yeah, Méthode Traditionnelle, Méthode Champenois.
Méthode Champenois, it's the same, yeah.
What makes cava different from Champagne is that the grapes we use, but now we're using Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, so it's not much of a difference. But also another difference is that the weather we've got, so it's sunny, the grapes ripe enough, so more sweetness in the grapes, and also the soil, and most important, the price. You can have a good cava a third of the price of a cheap champagne.
Yep. But with the same quality, of course. Because I've tasted expensive champagnes and it's...
And we can make a Brut Nature because our grape ripe enough, so there's enough sweetness in the grapes and the wine. And we don't need this dosage. In Champagne it's really difficult because the weather is so cold and wet. So the grapes are... I've been living there for a couple of months, so I know. They harvest the grapes and they are not ripe enough, so it's a lot of acidity. And to balance with they need to add this dosage to balance with the acidity of the wine. So it's really rare to have a Champagne Brut Nature. And if you find it, it will be very expensive.
Yeah.
You know? So once the bottles have been resting for a couple of weeks, we take the bottles, we clean the bottles again, and we dry the bottles with cold air to make changes of temperature that would damage the product. There's a light, there's another visual control. So there's the scan, visual control there, and another visual control here.
Isn't that like that tall white light right there?
Pardon?
Oh, this is the light. That's the light right there.
That's the light.
Okay.
And the bottles, they come here
Upside
down. There's always somebody here watching the bottles.
And this is...
I don't know what will happen. No, anything, you know, just they saw something just in case they're gonna check the bottles again. So they put the foil here and then label
Oh, can we have one of those?
Sure.
Yeah. Nice. Unused foil. That's something you don't see every day. You see all the time.
Where you bought the bottle, almost.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure, but I can know when I ship the bottles, when the bottles were labeled, when they were degorged, going back for how long they've been resting in the.
You know it since it was a baby.
I can know even where the grapes come from.
What I find extremely compelling is the pure joy and passion that Oriol exudes as he talks about the dominating force behind Juve Y Camps cavas, and that is the quality control. Every step of every bottle can be traced throughout its lifetime from vineyard to when it hits the restaurant table. This is a game changer when it comes to quality control and is fascinating to see in one of the oldest winemaking regions in the world. I mean, this is something I've seen used in modern produce distribution facilities, but never in a winery. This allows the team to pinpoint any flaws based off of feedback from the consumer, down to the precise moment that the flaw may have occurred. Oriol waves us over to this gorgeous flight of stairs, and we enter this beautiful cigar room. This is another area where the owners like to entertain the national soccer team and anyone who's lucky enough to get an invite to a party down here. I couldn't help to notice this perfectly set dining room table at the end of the room, and I was thinking to myself how amazing it would be to sit down here and enjoy a food and wine pairing. Little did we know Oriol had arranged a 3-course lunch paired with wines. Talk about the icing on the cake. I have traveled a lot of places and I've seen a lot of things. Nothing could have prepared me for my first visit to Spain. Oriol and Juve Y Camps exemplify what this country is all about. Unparalleled hospitality, a deep passion and relentless pursuit of the finest quality in your work, and the understanding that knowledge is the driver. My goal on this journey was to learn. I want to be able to share this knowledge with my staff throughout my career. Hanging out with Oriol has been inspiring, humbling, and motivating. I can't wait to share what I've learned with the rest of the world.